Hi, this is Dave Marshall for Art of the Comic Book, and today we are going to learn how to make straight lines with inky tools and a ruler. So, the first thing you always want to do is no matter how big the piece of paper is or what the ruler is, you never want to just leave your ruler flat like this. You need to bring the edge up at least at about a 45-degree angle, or maybe not 45-degree angles, but enough so that your non-drawing hand is comfortable holding it. Because what you don't want to do is tense up so quick like you're saving the world with the physical strength, but you don't want to just let it drop either. So you want to just hold it like nice and natural and use your thumb to keep it steady. This is easier with longer rulers, but this is such a short piece of paper that this part of the demo will be relatively easy. So with a technical or with a unflexible or non-flexible nib like, oh, I can't even find the camera now. Let's try, oh, here it is. I'm still getting used to this camera holder, so please forgive me. So I forget which number this is. I'll look it up after the demo and write it up in the notes, but it's famous for being thick and not flexible. So dip it into the ink, wipe the edges off, and then with the driest part of the ink, what you want to do is just butt it up and then just guide it across the paper like so. Now that line may look thin on video, but when you're this close to it, it looks a little thick, which is perfectly fine if that's the look you're aiming for. But sometimes you want your line to be even thinner. So I'm going to use the same technique with another nib that I can't remember the name of, but it looks like that. And if you look real close, you could see some numbers, but again, I'll just have to add notes to this video. So again, the same practice, you have to lift up, and again, not super tight and not super loose, but just natural enough so that you resist the urge to let it, flop around. So keep it steady, dip, wipe, and then with the lightest pressure possible, ta-da. And let's say lightest pressure possible. And because this is a drawing nib that's way more flexible than that technical nib I did earlier, I can vary the pressure for a little more interest. See there? Or maybe I should just bring it up like that. Now you can see the difference, right? Now with with pens, when it's really thick, it leaves a big pile of ink. You gotta wait for it to dry. But one thing you can do for varied lines and semi-unpredictable is to use a brush. So again, I'm gonna dip. And before I do anything, just a couple of practice strokes just to see what I'm getting into. If the ink is too thick or too thin, just sort of playing around with these strokes here. Nothing very serious, but when I feel comfortable, then it's the same practice. Lift up, and right there with the edge, the metal part of the brush, touching against the ruler, and just go whoop, like that. And again, depending on what you're doing, I mean, maybe you're rolling panels or you've got some art that you need sort of straight lines. You can go super thin, almost as thin as that nib I was using earlier. And you can go really thick. You can have lines that are very deliberately drawn, like you're saving the world, or you can just go silly. As always, I recommend experimentation. Oh, and one thing with brushes, they tend to split the ends when you use them too long, so, or not too long, but just everyday use. So what you want to do is get in the habit of getting scrap paper and just kind of twirling to the point where that end becomes solid. And then just try it again. So with enough practice, you're going to get confident. Oh, and one other thing, and this will come in for a future demo, which is how to make straight lines with a ruling pen. This is in the compass family. We'll be doing a bow compass demo a little bit later. But for right now, I don't know how close you can see because I still can't tell where the camera is half the time. Oh, here it is. All right. Now, the width is physically controlled. This is about as analog as you're going to get. With this little wheel here, you can determine how wide or thin the line is. So this is really, really thick. This is sort of thin. Oops, you can't see. Sorry about that. That's sort of thin. I'm going to go a little bit thinner. On camera, you can't see it, but this looks about right. So what you want to do, the very same thing. You want to like hold your ruler up at an angle, take your pen, dip it in the ink, and I like to wipe one side of this, not so much for ink fidelity, but to keep the edge of the ruler from getting wet. So I've got some ink there, and again, just a gentle, you don't want to like drop it, but just gently go there. And now I know that is a little bit thicker than I had planned. So I'm going to adjust this and make it thinner. And again, dip, wipe, and I wipe both ends of it anyway. So let's try this again. See how thin I can get with this. I haven't used this in a couple weeks. Again, super light pressure. Huh. Now that's still coming out a little thicker than I planned. So let me try one more time from a slightly different ergonomic angle. And that is still thinner than I planned. So I'm going to make it even smaller. And you won't be able to see, oh, look at that giant knuckle. You won't be able to see it as quickly as I can. Gonna try it so it's like almost closed. Let me try again. Wipe the ends, wipe both sides. Oh, much better. I think that's better. I know I can get this thinner. Sorry, this is the battle of wills now. Oh well, you'll just have to trust me that it can get a little that you can get that even thinner. Not as thin as this, but thinner than that. And that is how you make straight lines with a brush, a couple of nibs, and the ruling pen. And we'll get into the ruling pen and a compass in a later demo. In the meantime, hope you enjoyed this and see you next time. Bye.